I've talked to G.I. Joe while he waited, listening for a signal in a shallow ditch. I've heard his last hoarsely shouted wisecrack before his first action. Marched with him when he was tired. I've been his passenger, flown with him over the sea, over the desert. Watched him go to church, strange churches without steeple, spire, or pew. Been to chow with him, informally. Kidded with him when there was very little to joke about. And often when I've said, "Goodbye again, Joe," I've felt something more disturbing than the sadness of parting. Something added to the gratitude that all of us must feel. Something added to a debt that, try as we will, we know down deep we never can repay. For packed in my kit bag and my notes and manuscripts are thousands of stories of Joe's courage, fortitude, and gumption. Well, it's been valor that needed publishing, a story that demanded telling. Like all correspondents, I've done my best with it. It is not that what disturbs a reporter of this war. It is this. When correspondents go stale, tired, jaded, when we get fed up, we can always quit. Right, to be continued. Push off, catch a plane, come home. That's why I shall always be in his debt. So I've been searching for a story big enough, strong enough to bear comparison with the prodigious one he has been writing in blood and fire and geography. I think that I've found it in this, a story that all America helps write. It is doubtful that Joe has heard, busy as he is, that we at home have united all of these services into one great community campaign. That we have merged that traditional democratic institution, the community chest, with our National War Fund. But I should like to show him how logical this combined operation is. When I write about Joe, he's usually storming Salerno, landing on the beaches of Normandy, pulverizing Wilhelmshaven. But when there are 3,000 miles of ocean between us, I think of him laughing at his familiar favorites, his home folks of Hollywood and Broadway and the radio. All were dispatched to him by U.S.O. camp shows, a major item of this fund. Think of it. 2.5 million G.I. Joes entertained each month last year. 87 camp shows and combat zone shows overseas. Yes, and 83 training camp and hospital shows over here. And in addition, the stable, permanent, fixed homes away from home. The U.S.O. club's 3,000 units, Alaska to Brazil, Newfoundland to Hawaii, 2.5 million of servicemen lodged and entertained each month. And Joe will want to hear, too, of those comrades of his who never again in this war can be entertained by a U.S.O. show. The National War Fund aids these, too, with the materials of sanity and self-respect, with arms against the long leaden march of Axis prison days. 94 rest centers and United Seamen's Clubs on 6 continents draw support from this fund to fight convoy fatigue. These are the men who volunteer not once, but many times. The merchant seamen who play that fateful game of tag with the tin fish, who sink and swim and then sign on again. You know, your friend Joe has seen some sights that are pretty hard to take, even on a movie screen, since you shook his hand and wished him well. Scenes he will be a long time forgetting. So this is what I think. I think that when Joe sees scenes like this, his heart flies home to a scene like this American day nursery, a day nursery you help support. one of the thousands of recipients of your generosity. They are opposite sides of the same coin, of a very precious species, minted in your community war fund. Yes, we must give relief from the effects of this war in your own neighborhood. All these familiar agencies whose efficient functioning we have taken pretty much for granted must whip forward under the sting and lash of a war thousands of miles away. So I should like to tell Joe that the children on his block are safe, that despite wild boom stories that are worse on his nerves than booby traps, his kid sister has been guided into a safe haven, that the Boy Scouts still flourish with the aid of this fund, put on drives with a snap and an enthusiasm that would do a big brother's heart good, that many a mother who feels the stress of a speeded-up war world owes her peace of mind to some Girl Scout trained to care for children. And I should like to tell them that every Mrs. Joe's budget problem and health problem is the urgent concern of an understanding specialist, and that the visiting nurses are tireless and patient in teaching many a mother to care for a junior Joe, helping the fewer doctors at home to take care of more patients, old and young, and that the American War Relief Services beyond the sea, whose needs none can see and feel more clearly, more sensitively than Joe, China War Relief, Russian War Relief, the Belgian, the Greek, all the war relief services, all 14, come out of the same hamper, are subscribed in the same fund. Well, that's the gist of my memo to Joe, our memo to Joe, worth traveling thousands of miles to deliver, worth remembering when your community war fund or war chest asks that you make it good. So when I go out again, I'll say to Joe, this is one thing you don't have to worry about. We've got it covered. This is our promise. This is the least we can do. Okay?